How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Riley here. And today, you guys, yet again, I am bringing you all another brand new NBA video here on my channel. And with the new video today, we are coming at you guys with the biggest surprise from every NBA team this season. I haven't seen a lot of other YouTubers do a type of video like this, and once I thought of it, it seemed very interesting right off the bat. So I thought, why not try knock it out? If you guys do enjoy the video at all, please make sure to leave a like on it down below. But you guys, before we start this video, as I say before, for every single one, if you guys are brand new viewers to the channel, or you guys are coming from a previous video and you have not done this yet, I am highly encouraging each and every one of you guys to stop the video right now and make sure to go down below and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, as I always say, you guys, it is free, it is easy, and it just gets you guys my content that much faster than just checking my channel every now and then. I say it all the time, you guys, you will not regret doing it. Coming out with brand new NBA videos every single week here on the channel. You guys don't want to miss out. So I thank any of you guys who do this for me. I really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's jump into the biggest surprise from every NBA team this season. Also, I do want to say I was trying my hardest to think of every single surprise for every team. So if I do miss a major one that you guys are thinking of, please make sure to leave your comments down below on that as well. But jumping into the first team here, we have the Philadelphia 76ers. And with this one, clearly their biggest surprise this year was adding 2 potential all-stars to their team. You already have 1 all-star in Jimmy Butler that you added via trade, and they added a borderline all-star in Tobias Harris. So yeah, I know a lot of people were not expecting this from the beginning of the year, so that is the biggest surprise by far for the Sixers. By the way, I'm also going to mention we are trying to go through these really quick because getting through each and every NBA team is going to take a long time. So jumping right into the second team here, we have the Atlanta Hawks, and their obvious biggest surprise this year was the breakout season from their star rookie, Trae Young. I mean, most of you guys know he had a decent start to the year, but as we got into the second half of the season, he completely broke out of his shell and actually made the Rookie of the Year conversation a debate again, which most people did not think was actually possible. So yes, the clear obvious surprise in this was the breakout year in Trae Young. Moving on to number 3, you guys, we have the Boston Celtics. And for this one, we have the biggest surprise being that Kyrie isn't a guarantee to stay in Boston anymore. We saw in a public statement from Kyrie Irving in the preseason that he planned to sign long-term with the Celtics. And then we previously saw in an interview with Kyrie Irving, he basically said that he did not owe anyone. So yeah, things have changed quite a bit since the beginning of the year in Kyrie Irving's mind. All right, you guys, next up for this, we have the Brooklyn Nets. And for this one, the obvious biggest surprise was the breakout season in their star point guard in D'Angelo Russell. Along with this breakout year, he had his first All-Star appearance, and to top it off, their team made the playoffs for the first time in 4 years. I know that's kind of multiple things that I just stated, but in my opinion, they all kind of go together in a sense. Moving on to the Charlotte Hornets, there wasn't much to say about their season except for the fact that their biggest surprise is probably that they lost Kemba Walker in the process. It was really hard to find a surprise for the Hornets, and this is the only one I could think of. Failing to make the playoffs yet again with Kemba being their star player. I think he's finally realized that it is time to move on. But again, ultimately, it's his decision if he wants to stay with the city, so we're gonna have to see how that pans out. Next up, we have the Chicago Bulls, and for this one, I have their biggest surprise being their pickup in Otto Porter Jr. in a trade. I can honestly say this, along with probably a lot of people around the NBA, that they did not expect to see this coming at all. And I personally feel like you Bulls fans got a steal in Otto Porter Jr. He is a great young player who is proven, and he can help this Bulls team that's kind of in a rebuilding process kind of get their pieces together and just coast along the way. Top of this, you're getting a high draft pick this year, so that's another big surprise for Chicago. Moving on to the Cleveland Cavaliers, for their biggest surprise, we have the breakout year from their rookie point guard, Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton actually ended up finishing off the year averaging 17, 3, and 3 on 43% shooting, and I'm pretty sure 40% three-point shoot. So that is huge coming out of your rookie point guard in a rebuilding team, and he's definitely a young star on the rise in this league. I feel like you guys got a good one in Colin Sexton for the future. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, they have 2 of the biggest surprises in the entire league, in my opinion. They had the pickup in a trade for Kristaps Porzingis, which literally I feel like no one saw coming. And on top of that, they picked a breakout star in Luka Doncic in the draft. So yeah, personally, in my opinion, Mavs fans, you have nothing to complain about. Moving on to the Denver Nuggets, their obvious biggest surprise this year was claiming the 2 seed in the Western Conference. I know they are a solid team, don't get me wrong, but in the Western Conference, I can guarantee that not a lot of people expected Denver to get the 2 seed. And I obviously do give props to them, but they just cannot choke it away. They need to prove themselves in the playoffs and actually prove that the regular season might mean something. Moving on to the Pistons now, the very clear biggest surprise for this team was their breakout season in their new star, Blake Griffin. Currently this year, Blake Griffin is averaging the best numbers of his entire career so far. Averaging 25, 8, and 5 per game. He is clearly a great leader for this team. And on top of this, he is still showing that he is a dominant player in the league and that he can do something embarrassing for a franchise. It's just a bummer it's with the Detroit Pistons, who have not been very successful in quite some time. Moving on to the Golden State Warriors, I'm gonna have to say their biggest surprise this season has to do with a recent injury their team just picked up and how their guaranteed title might actually be up for grabs, or at least it's a lot more up in the air than what it was before the injury. Because if you guys do not know what I'm talking about, obviously DeMarcus Cousins went down with a quad injury and is out for the playoffs, and it seems like the title is a little bit more up for grabs than it was before, I can say that. So yeah, you guys get ready for the future rounds in the playoffs. It's going to be very interesting with Boogie going down. I can guarantee that. Moving on to the Rockets, their obvious biggest surprise was the absolutely insane breakout year in James Harden. I don't want to say breakout year, but the numbers he put up this year was absolutely insane, and I guarantee nobody was expecting it. He ended up averaging 36, 7, and 8 this year, which is just absolutely absurd no matter how you look at it. Moving on to the Pacers, their biggest surprise is clearly not a good one, as it was the fall of Vic. Victor Oladipo I'm talking about, if you guys don't know that nickname. However, with Victor Oladipo going down as well, one of their other biggest surprises is that they still made the playoffs as a 5 seed. Losing your star player like this, a lot of other teams around the NBA, if they were in this situation, might actually fall apart and not make the playoff. But the Pacers stuck with it. They kept going in the regular season and they made it to the playoffs, so I give them major props. Moving on to the Clippers, their biggest surprise obviously was that they still made the playoffs this year and are actually doing quite good in them right now. After essentially blowing up their team and going into rebuild mode by trading away their 2 best players, the Clippers were able to keep it together and make the playoffs as an 8 seed, and they actually just pulled off the greatest playoff comeback in history. So yeah, Clippers fans, all I can say is you guys have an insane team on your hands and you guys have a bright future no matter how you look at it. All right, you guys, moving on to the Los Angeles Lakers, their biggest surprise this year was obviously the blown up season. You could list off a lot of surprises for the Los Angeles Lakers this season, I know that, but to summarize all of the surprises, it basically just was a complete bust. After being, if I remember correctly, the 4th seed going into the Christmas Day game, everyone expected this Lakers team to make the playoffs and have an actually maybe decent run, but you saw LeBron go down with an injury on Christmas Day and everything spiraled out of control from there and the season was lost at that point. All right, moving on to the Memphis Grizzlies, you guys, I'm gonna have to say the biggest surprise for this team is that they finally realized that they need to blow up the team they have and start from scratch. By trading away one of their cornerstone pieces of the franchise in Marc Gasol and attempting to trade away Mike Conley as well this season, I think they have finally realized that it is rather obvious that they need to blow up this team and start over and try to get something new, because we saw this team in the recent years not make much playoff success, if anything for that matter, and it's just ultimately time for something new in Memphis. All right, you guys, moving on to the Miami Heat now. I have their biggest surprise being not making the NBA playoffs this year. I don't know, in my opinion, I was personally expecting this team to make the playoffs, especially with D-Wade's last ride. I thought they were going to be able to make a push and get into the playoffs and give D-Wade one last chance to show what he could do in the playoffs. But, I mean, what are you going to do? They didn't make it. Life goes on. D-Wade's farewell tour is over. His time in Miami is done. And they're moving on to a new chapter in the franchise from here on out next season. All right, you guys, moving on to the Milwaukee Bucks now. You guys know I am a huge Bucks fan. If you are regulars here on the channel, and I want to say that for Milwaukee, their biggest surprise this season was obtaining the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I know most of you guys will probably say that doesn't mean much, but I guarantee that not a lot of people expected Milwaukee to be the 1 seed. I mean, even me personally, like, yeah, I knew they were going to improve off of last season. That was for sure. But to acquire the 1 seed was a complete shock to even me and a lot of people, I feel, in my opinion. Now, you guys, moving on to the Timberwolves, I know for what I have, it's kind of a preseason ordeal, but it carried into the regular season in the end, and it's the Jimmy Butler scenario in Minnesota. I honestly really don't know what the Timberwolves were thinking in this situation. They thought they could keep Jimmy Butler, who clearly stated all offseason that he wanted out and he didn't want to play with any of their players. They decided to keep him and try to work with him in the regular season. Just ridiculous. Now, with the Pelicans, you guys, their biggest obvious surprise was that they were in the same situation as the Timberwolves, except it happened in the beginning of the season, and they decided to keep their player for the entire season. But essentially, I'm pretty sure the Pelicans kept Anthony Davis because they feel like they can get a better offer for him at the end of the season. Moving on to the Knicks, you guys, I can definitely say their biggest surprise this year was trading away Kristaps Porzingis. I can honestly say I did not see this coming. I know a lot of people probably didn't see it coming, but the one upside to this is that you guys are going to have a potential big free agency market this summer. Moving on to the Oklahoma City Thunder, for these guys, I kind of went with the biggest surprise being that Paul George was a potential MVP candidate. I kind of didn't see it coming, but he averaged 28, 8, and 4, and he was in the MVP talks towards the beginning of the year, and then towards the end, it kind of went towards Giannis and Harden. But still, give credit where it's due. Paul George had a magnificent year this year. Moving on to the Magic, their obvious biggest surprise this year was making the playoffs for the first time in, I think, 6 or 7 years. Definitely have to give props to those guys for making the playoffs. They put a lot of hard work in, and it definitely paid off. And along with this, they kind of have a breakout star in Aaron Gordon. You guys saw him kind of do some good things this year and prove that he can be a decent player in the NBA NBA all around. Now, you guys, for the Suns, I was really trying my hardest to find a big surprise for them, but I genuinely cannot find anything. So if you're a Suns fan, leave comments down below of what I should have said. But the big surprise I'm going with this team is that you guys have a high draft pick coming up in next year's draft. Next, we move on to the Portland Trailblazers, and for their biggest surprise, like, honestly, I don't think they have a big surprise. Portland Trailblazers did the exact same thing they've been doing the previous couple of years. They finished as a top 4 team in the Western Conference. They obviously made the playoffs once again, and you have another spectacular year from Damian Lillard acquiring an all-star yet again, and just proving he is one of the top tier point guards around the entire NBA. All right, you guys, we're moving on to the Sacramento Kings now, and their biggest surprise was definitely the breakout year in Buddy Hield. Kings had their best record and season in a very long time in the franchise, and a lot of it was on the success of Buddy Hield. Top of this, they traded for Harrison Barnes as well, who could be a decent piece going forward to see if this team can do anything regarding playoffs or making a postseason run in the future. Now, like other teams I've mentioned, I'm moving on to the San Antonio Spurs, and the Spurs really didn't have a major surprise this year that I could think of. I mean, besides acquiring DeMar DeRozan in the trade, but that was preseason. I'm not really talking about preseason that much, but they had another winning season yet again. They made the playoffs again, and it's the same Greg Popovich coaching this team to a successful year. I mean, what's new? It's just the same thing in San Antonio every single year. All right, and for the Toronto Raptors, the biggest surprise for this team was definitely the huge mix-up in their roster. Like I said before in the preseason, you guys obviously had the Kawhi Leonard trade, acquiring Danny Green in that as well. And on top of this, you guys, they traded for one of the better centers in the league in Marc Gasol as well. And there were rumors that they almost traded Kyle Lowry in the process of this too. So yeah, that's definitely the big surprise for the Raptors, the huge mix-up in the franchise. All right, moving on to the final 2 teams now. We have the Utah Jazz for this one. And again, you guys, I'm trying my hardest to think of a surprise for the Jazz this year. And all I can think of is that Donovan Mitchell didn't slip into the sophomore slump that he was granted at the beginning of the year. He actually ended up putting up better numbers this year than he did in his rookie year when he was a Rookie of the Year candidate. And he led this team to the playoffs once again. So props to the Jazz. They're a middle-of-the-pack team. I give them props. And the final one we have today, you guys, is the Washington Wizards. And the obvious big surprise in this was that the franchise this year went into complete bust mode. We saw John Wall go down with the injury, but even before that, they were doing awful compared to what people were expecting. And they ended up trading away one of their better pieces in the roster in Otto Porter. And they basically threw away the season right from the beginning. But all right, you guys, after that very long video, I'm thinking that's going to mark the end of it here today. Once again, you guys, as always, I'm really hoping you did enjoy the video. And if you did in any way, shape, or form, I would really appreciate it if you guys went down below and slapped a like on it for me. You guys all know how much the support means. I truly cannot say it enough. But also, you guys, before I leave, I want to say again, if you guys are brand new viewers to the channel, make sure to go down below and subscribe to never miss another video, you guys. I'm coming out with new NBA videos weekly. I got a ton planned for the channel, you guys. You don't want to miss out. But after saying that, I think that's all I have to say. So once again, I thank you guys so much for watching. I love each and every one of you guys. You all know this. And to end it off, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!